Great. We're recording, so you can go for it.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call to order the February 18th Tourism Advisory Council meeting. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Jenny with the Department of Commerce for opening comments.
Thank you. I have several things to run through today. I'll go through them pretty fast in interest of time. But first, just a couple of housekeeping things. We've had some system-wide issues with Zoom and the screen sharing, which we think we fixed by downgrading to an older version. So far, so good. But if there are issues, the TAC, you all received the documents that we'll be viewing today by email yesterday. So if there are any emergencies like that, you can follow along by clicking on the attachments I sent yesterday. And then only the TAC members are elevated to speak currently. So during the public comment periods, if a non-TAC member wants to speak, you will need to raise your hand and give us a second, and then we'll elevate you to be able to speak. So Joan and others and Amanda will have to look for those hands during public comment sections of the agenda. So first update, I want to recognize the work of the marketing committee who has needed to meet 3 separate times since the last meeting to make recommendations on 3 different batches of the audit reports, as well as budget increase requests. Generally, the marketing committee only meets once between the fall meeting and the February meeting. So I want to be sure to give them credit for their additional time. It should not be like this next year. We have plans to, with an aim to complete all of the audits prior to the calendar year end, which will be great since we have a legislative session starting in January of next year to have those all wrapped up. In covering this position for several months, it's clear to me that there is a need for DMO training with a number of leadership changes in the organizations. I'm also seeing or suspecting that different DMOs have received different information on processes over time. And there also appears to be quite a bit of confusion around budget. So I'm currently in the hiring process for the compliance specialist position. That would be really helpful, but regardless, I'm hoping to be able to roll out a training schedule for the DMOs and also for the TAC with this February meeting and audits and budgets behind us. Ida Bailey has also offered to provide a training on their processes and their scheduling worksheet to better prepare the DMOs for organizing their documentation in advance of the next audit. So stay tuned for appointments on that. I do want to be clear that we are not monitoring the DMO's budgets. We are happy to offer resources such as the monthly projections that we're providing to give information for DMOs if they choose to use it to best manage their budgets. But the responsibility of accounting and also of compliance sits firmly with the DMOs and their boards. I also encourage DMOs to discuss succession planning with their boards and aim to have a training program in place when leadership transitions. There's been a lot of transition over the last year. And I'm seeing that the handoff to new leaders within organizations in some cases seems to be causing issues with documentation and strategy and accounting in ways that we at the department don't have any insight into, so we can't be of much service to them. It's also helpful when transition occurs for replacements to have the previous directors access to information for ServiceNow. That's a snag that we've been running into as there's leadership. We have to go through a big sort of IT process to get new ownership into those accounts so they can go in and upload their reports or upload their budgets or be able to make changes within their previous applications in ServiceNow. On my end, our current staff capacity, which is me with the help of Teresa and Anna Marie, is focused on payments and projections, working with Department of Revenue to address any issues with their revenue modeling on their end, ServiceNow, delinquencies and reviews of end-of-year reports and quarterly financials, and administering several TAC processes, including those marketing committee meetings, research committee meeting, this full TAC meeting, managing the auditing consultant contract, securing a location for the June TAC, among other items. So with all of that, I do want to be as much of service the DMOs as we possibly can, but we are short in capacity. So I do once again want to encourage and thank the experienced DMOs for stepping in and assisting their colleagues when they have questions and training on processes. I know that's been occurring and it's been super helpful. As discussed as our last bi-monthly partner call, revenue projections are in flux. In many cases, they are decreasing below what the TAC approved for their budgets. We are providing modeled projections only to assist the DMOs in managing their budgets. We are also only processing budget increase requests for the sake of TAC operations in reviewing and approving them. You will be seeing 6 budget increase requests today. Budget decreases do not require TAC action, so all accounting of budget decreases must be maintained by the DMO themselves and available for future audit of FY26 dollars. DMO Q2 reports were due on January 20th. 7 DMOs missed that deadline. 2 DMOs are repeatedly delinquent. Follow-up contact has occurred with all of them, and they were reminded that failure to submit could result in withholding of disbursements per the contract and the rules and regulations and procedures. 1 report is still outstanding, and disbursements are timed to go out near the end of this month. So if you are outstanding, be sure that you get everything turned in so that we can get that disbursement out. End of the year evaluations were due to me on December 1st. 8 were incomplete, requiring follow-up from the department. All materials were then required to be submitted by January 30th as an additional grace period. 1 still remains incomplete even after this follow-up and extension. February budget requests highlight that some DMOs did not update their ServiceNow in November after they got the budget increase approved by you guys. And so that needs to happen. And in at least 1 case, they did not retain record of that budget worksheet that you all approved. And so just a reminder that the retention and the process of updating in ServiceNow are the DMO's responsibility, and this will be important for audit. We are doing follow-up to make sure that all of that stuff is complete. But with that, I just really want to emphasize that it's the responsibility of the DMOs and the TAC to know the regulations and procedures as posted. Not meeting deadlines or deliverables causes additional administrative workload for me and my staff, where we would like to be able to focus on other areas like training and education. Additionally, it is essential for audits, which you all will be reviewing today. Eide Bailly has done a great job of assembling the AUP reports for today. I have received very positive feedback on their work and their process, with a number of people saying it's streamlined and clear, which was really what I was aiming for in bringing in a third party. You'll be seeing the majority of the DMO's AUPs today, with the exception of Yellowstone Country, Southwest Montana, Glacier Country, Glendive, Big Sky, and Bozeman. They were not finalized in time for this meeting and will need to be reviewed at a future meeting date. So Joan and or I will be in contact on when those will be reviewed. With some of these AUPs outstanding, I'm anticipating that the meeting will probably be shorter than the time blocked today. Without knowing, I just went on the conservative end and blocked as much time as I thought we would need if we had every single audit in front of us today. One last note, I've secured the Montana Historical Society's new meeting space for the June 9th and 10th in-person TAC meeting. As a reminder, all of the meeting dates are posted on the TAC webpage at commerce.mt.gov. After this meeting, we'll be switching our attention to securing room blocks in Helena and then communicating additional information on the meeting as well as the marketing planning process. In the meantime, the marketing process and timelines are laid out in the regulations and procedures document. So if you have questions, reference that for now. And then finally, I want to thank Amanda, who's on today, who's assisting us with technology and then transcription for today's meeting. And those are all of my updates.
One really quick question. We have a few questions coming in about the documents that were sent. Were those sent only to TAC members?
Yes.
Okay, so that clarifies a few questions. Thank you.
Amanda, are you able to elevate Brookie to panelists? I understand she's on. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Jenny. At this point, we will start with the TAC member roll call. I will begin. My name is Joan Kronebusch. I represent Central Montana Tourism, and I will put this over to my vice chair, Lisa Koski.
I'm Lisa Koski with representing Missouri River Country.
Thank you. We'll go to Erin.
And I am Erin Kennedy, and I'm embarrassed to admit I forget who I represent.
We'll get that straightened out for next meeting,
Thank
Erin.
you. I'd say the Billings area.
Leilani.
Good morning. This is Leilani.
Leilani?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi. Good morning. This is Leilani. I represent Glacier Travel Tourism.
Okay. Thank you. And I do not believe that she's by a lake having this meeting right now, but just putting that out there. Shelley.
Hi, I am Shelley Mann. My apologies for not having the video. I am not seeing that option for me. But anyway, I am Shelley Mann. I represent the Southeast Montana Tourism Region.
Thank you, Shelley. Brookie.
Yes, Brookie Erb, Southwest Montana.
Thank you, Brookie and Chris.
Good morning, Chris Dunkerson, Yellowstone Country.
Thank you. Okay, seeing that we have a quorum, I will go ahead and ask for approval of the November 6th meeting minutes. And just a side note, for those of you that would like to, that have not or would like to review the meetings from the November 6th, the minutes from the November 6th meeting, those can be found at commerce.mt.gov and then find your way to TAC. So I will look for a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you.
Minutes.
Thank you, Chris.
I'll second the motion.
And thank you, Brookie. All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Hi.
Okay. Opposed? Same sign. And abstentions. Okay, hearing none, minutes are approved. So we are, oh gosh, 2 minutes ahead. Thank you. We will move on to public comment. And before we move on to public comment, just a reminder to raise your hand to be recognized and for public comment. So please state your name and where you are from. This is the time to comment on matters falling within the purview of the Tourism Advisory Council. There will also be an opportunity for public comment on each action items on the agenda. So, public comment. Raise your hand to be recognized. Let's see what we have. Okay. I see none.
Rebecca?
Oh, thank you, Rebecca. My apologies, I didn't see you.
Yeah, Rebecca Ingham, Great Falls, Montana Tourism. I am just curious as to if the TAC is going to be discussing today what kind of format they're wanting for the presentations of the annual plans in June, or will that happen at a different like marketing meeting or different meeting? I guess it's not common,
Thank
it's
you,
question.
Rebecca. All good, all good. Thank you. Your timing is good. We have just begun to talk about that, and I would imagine after we take this to the marketing committee, that by I'll give myself a timeline of first week of March. Does that? I believe that would give the DMOs enough time. Is that
I
a
agree.
fair date? 2 weeks?
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I will have, once the marketing committee finalizes that, and we will work with Commerce to get that information out to the DMOs for the June meeting. So, any other public comment or questions, public questions? Okay, Amanda, do you see anyone else out there?
Nope, I don't see anyone else.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We will go ahead and move on with TAC committee reports. And I'm first, I guess, rules and procedures. Rules and procedures has not met. We will be convening in March to work on rules and procedures. We will be working closely with Commerce and the DMOs on revising or making changes to the rules and procedures document. I have heard from many, as I'm sure Commerce has. And once the Rules and Procedures Committee gets moving, we will have probably a great report for the June meeting. Does anyone have any questions for the Rules and Procedures Committee? And Amanda, I don't see the chat, so I'll rely on you. Okay.
Not seeing
Thank you. Seeing and hearing none, we will move on to the Montana Heritage Commission. Brookie Erb.
Yes, just a short report. John Stasko, the new executive director, is now in his role. We're happy to have him. The lawsuit has been dismissed, and we believe that all venues will be filled for the summer season. There will be a press release that will go out once all the contracts have been signed. And that's all I have for my report.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Brookie. Okay, next up is Leilani with Tribal Tourism.
Good morning. So this is prepared by Rochelle Brown, Tribal Tourism Officer, for highlighted activities from December 25th to February 2026. First is the grant programs under the Tribal Tourism Grant for 2026 for governments. 2 submissions recommended for funding were Blackfeet and Fort Belknap. Tribal Tourism Small Business Grant. There have been 33 eligible submissions currently under rank and review, up to 24 awards available. Next is event sponsorships. Each tribal nation is eligible to receive up to $10,000 to support their public tourism events for summer 2026. Next is Production Assistant Media Training Scholarship Program with Accelerate Montana, ended December 2025, resulting in 22 certified PAs entered into the Montana Film Office Crew databases for call to work opportunities. 4, partnering with Montana Indigenous Tourism Trail Project, the Tribal Tourism Program has been co-presenting to tribal councils, up to 8 to date, and assisting in the formation and biweekly virtual meetings of 8 separate MITTP steering committees. The goal is for each committee from each tribal nation to consist of 15 diverse individuals to inform the future of tourism economic development and promotion with and for their community, resulting in collective vision informed by 120 plus unique voices from across Montana's Indian country. And let's see, last is Made in Montana Trade Show and Native American Made in Montana Pavilion in Helena at the Lewis and Clark Fairgrounds Expo Center, March 13th through the 14th, 2026. For wholesale exhibitors, Tribal Tourism Program has recruited Grizzly Medicine Herbs, Assiniboine Books, and Snowcap Designs as sponsored exhibitors to the NAMM Pavilion. And that is all I have for the Tribal Tourism Report.
Thank you, Leilani. That was a great report. Exciting to hear about the continuation of the production assistance program. So next up, does anyone have any questions for Leilani? Okay. And next up is research. Brookie Erb again.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Melissa Waddell, and I'll turn this over to her.
Great. Thank you, Brookie. I assume everyone can hear me. So good morning. I'm actually wearing a turtleneck today because winter arrived for the first time. It was wonderful to see many of you on the BBER tour across the state. That's almost completely wrapped up. We have a few dates in March out east. So with that said, we opened the call for projects in the fall, and we received 24 submissions. Those of you who've been around a while, I would say maybe half of those submissions we kind of take out because we've either done them or they're not within our capacity, or maybe they're not even in our realm of what we do. And so we did narrow that down. We had a meeting January 12th with the committee to talk through some of that. And what we do is we budget out what we think projects are, and we outline everything that we do, which is a public document in all of our past budgets. We are cognizant of this upcoming year. Our funding was decreased from 2.5% to 2%. And so we kind of project out looking at last year's lodging tax. So that puts us at about $1.2 million of funding. We are cautious with that because we are concerned maybe the lodging tax will go down this year if the economy softens. So we're being very conservative. With that said, the main job of ITRR is the quarterly non-resident travel analysis, which is how we have surveyors across the state. That cost us about $500,000. And then the other money is spent on operations and one-time projects. And so the annual projects that we feel we want to move forward for a vote on, the main one is a resident travel study. If you remember, this was done in 2018 with 2017 data. It is a year-long study. So we will intercept residents across the state for each quarter for a full year, and we'll start that this summer. A lot of DMOs and regions really need to see an update on this. As I've mentioned before, new money coming into the state, is what has an economic impact. In-state money circulating doesn't really have the economic impact statewide, but it's very important to the communities. We know that resident travel is a big part of developing infrastructure and outdoor recreation and community assets, and especially with the community grant program that Commerce is administering. So that is really the main project that we're moving forward this year with kind of a reduced budget and capacity. There were something else I want to mention that we are part of that has kind of grown, which is a good thing, but the original pilot community grant and now the community grant program, we are working with each community to do a pre-post survey with visitors and residents. So we're on the back end support. So that project continues to grow as more communities are receiving funding for that. So the other two kind of one-time projects is working across our public lands, specifically state parks, with understanding adaptive recreation. And we've seen a lot of DMOs also work towards this, thinking about how to market and have a visitor that has different types of disabilities or a multi-generation family come, and making sure things are accessible and they have stuff to do. So that's one of the projects, is understanding adaptive recreation. The other one is specific to Butte, but it's actually a Greenway Trail research project. We have a researcher at the University of Montana that is working on kind of a new research methodology. We have played with mobile location data, and it's not super consistent or great at this kind of level, but he has about 60 GPS units, and they hand these to users as they come into a community or public lands, and they see where they go. And so they look at these patterns, and then they have them fill out a survey, what type of user they are, where they come from, like all these things. And so this is part of a larger project that we're just putting in a little bit of resources for, especially with our graduate students, so we can publish this and bring it to other communities. It's pretty cool, actually, and we're really excited about that. And then other things that we always produce is our annual economic outlooks. I go on the BBER tour. We do data mining for all the communities. Many of you reach out to us and we pull reports for you. Survey kits, those are getting more popular. So we're doing probably 7 to 10 of those a year. And then, of course, our resident attitudes and maintaining our dashboards and our website and things like that. So we're a small but really mighty team, and really proud to do this work. So the package that was sent to all the TAC, I have all of these projects outlined and the cost. Remember that we do this based on the submission, but we refine these projects once we get started on them, and we work with stakeholders and have listening sessions and want to make sure we really meet the needs of Montanans. So with that said, that's kind of an overview of our projects. I think the main takeaways is the resident travel study is what our big project is coming up this year. So thank you, Brookie, and thanks for the TAC for your support.
Thank you, Melissa. I'll need a motion to approve the ITRR projects as presented by Melissa.
So moved. This is Shelley.
Could I have a second?
This is
Chris-
Leilani. I will second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any abstentions? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Thanks, Brookie.
Mhm.
And thank you, Melissa. The projects sound exciting. So next we will move on to the committee, the marketing committee. And I also want to reiterate Jenny's comment about the marketing committee. I appreciate your time during this process. So we will first be looking at budget increases. We have 6 budget increases to review for approval by the full TAC. The council will entertain a motion to approve each budget increase. Budget increases may be approved as submitted, approved with stipulations, approved with actions as outlined in rules and procedures. These 6 budget increase requests are deemed in compliance with rules and procedures as reviewed and recommended by the marketing committee. And a reminder, you are welcome to ask questions at any time, and we will be also, if the DMO whose budget this is able to comment, we'll ask them for comments. So First, let's go with, I don't see whose this is.
This is Central Montana, but before I just noticed that there are two chats. Don't know if we were visiting those to see if there were questions at all or.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a Q&A section and a chat. So if you have a question, maybe pop it in the chat or raise your hand.
Okay.
So there's public comment, I believe, on each action item only. If these are questions from the audience versus the TAC.
Okay,
I can't, I'm not going to view them now and I'm screen sharing. Can you see my screen for the budgets right now?
we can see the budget screen.
All right, and so these are the actual files. TAC, I sent them to you in like a consolidated version in PowerPoint. So hopefully they open in the same order that you have them in front of you. But my version gives a little bit more information. So I can just quickly run through each one. Is that how you would like to proceed?
Thank you. Yes,
Okay.
Jenny, that's great.
Okay, so this is Central Montana's. This is their first budget increase of the year. They want to increase their budget by $8,750 and some change, and they're planning on putting that all into paid media. If we scroll down on the worksheet here, across all of them, they will not be updating the sales tax part, just as a reminder. But down here, they're to record what the sources of funding is that they're going to be pulling from to increase their budget. So in this instance, Central Montana is using additional rollover funds to raise their budget. So their total bed tax budget rises to the $543,689. If there aren't any questions, I'll move on to the next one.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Hearing none, go ahead.
Okay, this is Great Falls budget. Similar, this is their first ask for an increase this fiscal year. They want to raise their budget by just over $70,000, and they are adjusting admin and then putting the remainder into paid media for a new total budget of $312,664.07. Their sources of funding comes from FY25 uncommitted dollars for that 70,000. I don't know if there are questions. I can't recall what the 337 decrease is on this.
Rebecca, if you would like to comment on that.
Just got to give her a second to get elevated.
Yes, I'm happy to comment. This when our financials are looked at by the auditors on 6/30, we didn't have our final payment because those were not sent out until July. And so it appears like the amount of money that was available at the Department of Commerce to come over was less than what we had available. And that was simply because of the timing of that last payment. We don't get all of our budget until the end of the year. So these are all projections until then. But what you're seeing with the negative $337.93 is there wasn't money available for us on 6/30 because those payments came in July.
Okay. Thank you for that, Rebecca. Any other questions from the council? Okay, moving on.
This is Kalispell's, again, first increase request of the year. They'd like to raise their budget by $26,393 for a total new budget of $247,000 at $247,009, and they will be applying it to admin, Marketing resources, paid media, and visitor services. And this again comes from uncommitted FY25 dollars that were confirmed at the time of their audit.
Any questions regarding Kalispell? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Miles City is increasing their budget by, this is their second increase. So you approved an increase for them in November. They'd like to increase their budget by $7,846 for a total new budget of $56,919.65. Theirs is also from uncommitted FY25 dollars that were confirmed with their at the time of the audit. And if
Any
you're
questions
confused-
regarding Miles City?
Sorry, I'll just
My apologies,
I'll just
Jenny.
note here for people that this total down here is different from the total here because this spreadsheet adds in this sales tax piece.
Are we approving then the budget total of $60,000?
No, you're approving the budget total of the use tax, which is the 56,919.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. All right, Missouri River. They are, this is their second ask. Let's see, they had to take out some from admin because of projections going down. However, they also, if I'm remembering right, they also had quite a bit of cash on hand after FY25. So it's a mix of negatives and positives here because you can't take admin out. You can't count admin twice. So they took it out of their projection, but then are adding in that additional money. So overall, they want to increase their budget by $23,999 for a new budget of $160,019. They had additional rollover that wasn't accounted for until later this year. And then they also have the $23,999 that was FY25 uncommitted that was confirmed at the time of their audit.
Any questions regarding Missouri River? Okay, moving on.
And then the last one is Sydney's. This is their first budget increase request of the fiscal year. They'd like to go up $6,838.40, applying it to admin, marketing resources, product development, and website development. And theirs is also a combination of rollover, so additional earned, and then uncommitted FY25 that was confirmed at the time of the audit.
Okay, any questions regarding Sydney? Okay, thanks, Jenny. So I will go ahead and just recap this. The following DMOs are requesting final approval to increase their FY26 lodging facility use tax budget using available rollover funds. Central Montana Tourism will allocate $8,750.65 of FY25 rollover funds into the FY26 budget for a total updated FY26 budget of $543,689.65. The following DMOs are requesting final approval to increase their FY26 lodging facility use tax budget using available rollover funds and or committed FY25 funds. Great Falls Montana Tourism will allocate $70,056.07 of uncommitted FY25 into the FY26 budget for a total updated budget of $312,664.07. Kalispell CVB will allocate $26,393 of FY25 uncommitted funds into the FY26 budget for a total updated budget of $247,009. Miles City Convention and Visitors Bureau will allocate $7,846 in uncommitted FY25 funds into the FY26 budget for a total updated FY26 budget of $56,919.65. Missouri River Country will allocate $23,999 of FY25 uncommitted funds, reflecting an adjustment to their current revenue projection of $9,330 in reductions and $33,329 in uncommitted for a total updated FY26 budget of $160,019. And finally, Sydney CVB will allocate $2,368.40 in FY25 rollover funds and $4,470 in uncommitted FY25 dollars into the FY26 budget for a total updated budget of $26,226.40. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Chris. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Was that Brookie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Brookie. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. And any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. I want to thank the 6 DMOs for their submissions and use of your bed tax monies. Good job. Okay. Next, we will move on to the annual audits. And at this time, I will turn this over to Ide Bailey.
Thank you. I was trying to unmute. Got it all to work. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, hi. Nice to meet you all that haven't got to talk to you before. I'm Paul Kane. I am an audit partner in our Denver office and work with several other local governments within the state of Montana on their year-end audits. So become pretty familiar with Montana state, the locality, the laws and things like that through those jobs. This has been an interesting project and I've had enjoyed myself working on it. I have Jill Marasco with me. She's our manager. She's going to be presenting the results of the audits to you today. So I'll kick it over to Jill.
Great. Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
All right. As Paul said, I'm an assurance manager with Ide Bailey. I'm actually located here in Missoula, Montana. I've been with Ide Bailey for several years, and prior to that worked for the state of Montana Legislative Audit Division. So all of my experience is very focused on state of Montana government. All right, so before we get into the results today, I just want to go over our actual scope of work that was performed. So we were engaged by the state of Montana Department of Commerce to perform specific procedures for each DMO. And I just want to clarify that is why we're using this term agreed upon procedures rather than an audit. Is that simply from our regulatory standpoint, an audit is something that provides an opinion over the work that we've performed, whereas we are just stating the results of the procedures that we performed. We determined the 4 procedures that we would do with the state, and they were to determine compliance with the rules and procedures for Region CVB tourism organizations' use of the lodging facility use tax revenue as those rules are adopted into the Administrative Rule of Montana, specifically 8119-101. So just for clarity, that is the specific rules and procedures that we are using for our procedures. All right. The first procedure that we performed for each DMO was an expenditure sample. For this, we gathered the general ledger detail for each DMO, agreed it back to their budget to actual reports, and then we made a sample selection. And that sample was determined as either 25, 50, or 75% of the expenditure transactions based on a risk assessment that was performed in conjunction with the state. And the risk assessment was really based on, was there any turnover at the DMO? Are they new? Are they well established? All of those factors were considered when determining the sample size itself. From there, we then performed each of these 4 A, B, C, and D items for the sample. You'll notice that A and B, those 2 are applicable to every single sample item, where C is only applicable for travel expenditures and D is only applicable if there were any prior stipulations by the council that we needed to make sure that those were fulfilled prior to the expenditures going out. Procedure number 2, this one's pretty straightforward. This is a recalculation of the administrative allowance, and then a comparison to the maximum 20% allowance for the fiscal year for each DMO. Procedure number 3 for bidding and RFP process. We inquired with every DMO if there were any new bids or RFPs performed during the year. We then reviewed the general ledger detail that we also have for every DMO for any vendors that appeared to go over limited solicitation or RFP thresholds, and asked if there was a contract in place that perhaps had been done in prior years. And that's really to identify if there were any instances that appeared as if they should have gone out for bid and did not. So that's the full scope of procedure 3. Procedure 4, this is essentially a cash reconciliation, and this is presented in Schedule A of every AUP report that at the very end presents uncommitted and committed funds as of fiscal year end 2025. The AUP report format itself lists out each one of these procedures, and then immediately following the procedure in bold font, it states whether there were no exceptions identified, or if there were any exceptions identified, what information, further information was provided on that. And then it also, as stated, shows the schedule of uncommitted and committed funds. So before we jump into the results this morning for the DMOs, are there any questions on the procedures themselves? No. Okay. So we will jump into our results for each DMO. It's presented pretty high level here, and we will pause after each one just for any comment or questions for the results. First, we have Columbia Falls. For their procedure number 1, the expenditure sample, we had a sample size of 21 expenditures and no exceptions noted. Procedures 2 and 3, there were no exceptions noted. And for procedure 4, you can see the full schedule presented here. This might look slightly different from what you've seen in the past, but it's essentially the same cash reconciliation. We really just wanted to start with the cash balance per the bank statements for every single DMO. So that's what's given in this first line. And then any outstanding checks or deposits, any activity to reconcile up front. You'll see the lodging tax revenue coming in, expenditures going out. Their cash balance per the bank statements at fiscal year end was $12,860. Taking out the outstanding activity of $3,000, their cash remaining to be committed at fiscal year end was $9,507. And then there's a section at the bottom that also breaks out if any of that amount was committed to fiscal year 25 projects, which is estimated by the DMO, that is shown there, or committed to fiscal year 26 projects. Any questions or comments for Columbia Falls? No? Okay. Missoula, for procedure 1 for Missoula, we had a sample size of 31 expenditures, no exceptions noted for procedure 2 or 3. And then in the essence of time, we'll just go over the cash to be committed at fiscal year end, which for Missoula was $207,594. Any questions or comments for Missoula? Okay. Sydney CVB, their expenditure sample was for 3 expenditures for the year and no exceptions were noted. Procedures 2 and 3, we had no exceptions. And then their cash reconciliation shows cash to be committed at fiscal year end of $4,847. Seeing no questions or comments, I'm just going to roll through these. And if there are any, then I'll pause to answer those as we go. Missouri River Country, for their expenditure sample, we had a sample size of 105 expenditures and no exceptions were noted there. Procedures 2 and 3 had no exceptions. For procedure 4, their cash to be committed as of fiscal year end was $64,399. Okay. Red Lodge CVB, procedure 1, their expenditure sample, the sample size was 20 expenditures, no exceptions for number 2 and 3, and their cash to be committed at fiscal year end was $10,999. Great Falls CVB, their sample size for procedure 1 was 8 expenditures and no exceptions noted. No exceptions noted for procedures 2 or 3. Cash to be committed at fiscal year end was $70,394. Whitefish CVB, their sample size was 20 expenditures and no exceptions noted. Procedures 2 and 3, no exceptions noted. And their cash to be committed at fiscal year end was $9,344. Central Montana Tourism Region, the sample size for procedure 1 was 37 expenditures, no exceptions noted. No exceptions noted for 2 or 3. And then cash to be committed at fiscal year end, it was $62,694. Livingston CVB, 20 expenditures for their sample size for procedure 1, no exceptions noted for procedure 2 or 3. Cash to be committed at fiscal year end was $10,632. Haber CVB, the sample size for them was 5 expenditures and no exceptions noted. No exceptions for procedure 2 or 3. Cash to be committed at fiscal year end was $4,174. Seeing no questions. Butte CVB. So for Butte, the sample size was 70 expenditures and no exceptions were noted. For procedures 2, there was no exception noted, and procedure 3, there was no exception noted for fiscal year 2025. We did just add a note that there was a prior year finding for the vendor Digital Concepts, that a payment of $14,500 was made to this vendor in fiscal year 2025 for a YouTube video campaign. Since that was a prior year finding, we were just drawing your attention to it in the current year. For procedure number 4, their cash to be committed at fiscal year end was $6,722. Any questions for Butte? Okay, Belgrade CVB, the sample size for procedure 1 was 14 expenditures and no exceptions were noted. Procedure 2, no exceptions noted. For procedure 3, we noted one exception of $5,995 was expended for marketing research services with Alpha Maps, which exceeds the limited solicitation threshold per Section 8 of the rules and procedures. We noted that none of the procedures in that limited solicitation section were fulfilled, and sole source justification was not documented for this particular vendor. Procedure number 4, cash to be committed at fiscal year end was $39,227. Any questions for Belgrade?
Actually, a question for Belgrade regarding the uncommitted funds. I understand that you may have worked with Jenny to get a better understanding of that adjustment that's going to be made. Is that correct?
Yes. Are you referring to this committed to fiscal year 26 project amount? Or
yeah, and that question was for the Belgrade, the DMO, if the DMO is on.
I can say from our end, we're scheduled to meet to help her understand more about this stuff, but that meeting hasn't happened yet. A concern I would have though is that their cash to be committed is less than what they committed to FY 26 projects to begin with. And so they definitely would have to address that.
Mm-hmm. So thank you, Jenny, for in the future taking time with Belgrade. Appreciate that, and I'm sure that they appreciate that also. So I think we can move on.
Kalispell CVB, the sample size for procedure 1 for them was 74 expenditures and no exceptions noted. Procedure 2, no exceptions noted. For procedure 3, we did have one exception here of $7,000, which was expended for marketing research with CoStar, which again exceeds that limited solicitation threshold. And none of the procedures in Section 8 were fulfilled, as well as sole source documentation just not being retained. And then procedure 4, cash to be committed at fiscal year end for them was $26,393. And I see Diane's hand is up.
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you. The exception is noted. I do also want to state a letter was provided to TAC that this CoStar Realty is for the Star Smith Travel Research Report, which is an industry standard that the DOs use, and the hotel industry standard for the hotel industry. A sole source documentation was not required in the past. Hence, it was not provided this year, but it is noted and will be followed starting in FY 27. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. And okay, thank you, Jenny. I will. We will note that. I'm sorry that message just went away. I was going to read it. A message from Jenny that non-TAC members are to comment during public, so that this is fine that we are asking for the comments. So and I have one comment. This isn't necessarily regarding Kalispell, that we before at the conclusion of these reports, I will have comments on specifically procedure number 3, because we will be seeing this in a few of the audits that we'll be reviewing. So.
All right, Helena CVB. The sample size for Helena was 11 expenditures and no exceptions noted. For procedure 2, no exceptions noted. For procedure 3, we have the two following exceptions noted. The first of $42,750 expended for marketing research, exceeding the RFP threshold of $25,000, and the second being $10,397, which was expended on marketing research, exceeding the limited solicitation threshold of $5,000. Cash to be committed for Helena at fiscal year end was $17,694. Dillon CVB, for procedure number 1, the sample size was 10 expenditures and no exceptions noted. Procedure 2, no exceptions noted. For procedure 3, the 2 exceptions are noted here. $13,000 was expended for marketing research, exceeding the limited solicitation threshold, and $7,533 was expended for paid media goods, also exceeding the limited solicitation threshold of $5,000. There's no documentation of the Section 8 limited solicitation procedures performed or sole source justification. For procedure 4, cash to be committed at fiscal year end was $3,010. Gardner CVB, for procedure 1, the sample size was 28 expenditures and no exceptions noted. Procedure 2, no exceptions noted. For procedure 3, we noted the following payments for various services or goods paid to the vendor TDG Communications. There was $10,000 for website development, $6,500 for shipping, $13,370 for paid media. There was no contract in place with them, and the requirements of Section 8 for limited solicitation or RFP for each one of those services was not fulfilled. For procedure number 4, the cash to be committed as of fiscal year end was $25,462. Any comments or, okay.
I do have a question for Gardner, if they are on the call. I think when this went through committee, you had noted that 6,500 noted here, 6,500 for shipping. That indeed was not shipping. Is that correct? Or am I confusing my audits?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So that was for shipping of our visitor guide. It originally, when we went through the audit review, it had listed shipping and printing, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew it was not for printing. It was just for shipping.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification, and my apologies to the council that it was for another audit, and I'll be calling. Thank you, Therese. I'll be requesting that information as we get to that audit.
West Yellowstone CVB. For procedure 1, the sample here was 173, expenditures, with one exception. For one transaction, we noted a reimbursement payment to TBID in an amount of $45, which did not have an associated invoice or other support for the payment. The only support was a copy of the issued check. For procedure number 2, we did not note an exception here. We were just clarifying that this was calculated as the total new lodging tax payments received during the year, plus the prior year rollover funds as approved in the budget, and that calculated out to be appropriate. For procedure number 3, there were 5 exceptions in which the limited solicitation threshold was exceeded without fulfilling those procurement requirements. They are listed here as $18,575 for photo and video services to CrowdRiff, $6,995 for printing to Outside Interactive, $11,000 for digital services to Herman Global Inc., $17,000 for research services to Placer AI, and $40,223 for product development with Spiffy, Biffy Portable, and Build It LLC. And procedure 4 for them shows cash to be committed at fiscal year end of $28,848.
Can you go back to the previous screen?
Yes.
And I do have a question for West Yellowstone. Is West Yellowstone on? Can we
Katrina,
confirm that?
you are unmuted if you want to speak.
Can you hear me?
Oh, thank you, Katrina.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, yes.
It was trying to run through my other speaker. I don't know what was going on.
Technology.
Yeah.
Question and a little bit of clarification. Was it your audit that we discussed the 6,995 for printing?
It wasn't printing. It was a digital media campaign, and it was never put under printing. So I'm not sure why it says printing on here, but that's a digital media campaign with Outside Interactive.
Okay. So first I would request that just change in the audit, and I would like to remind everyone that before you sign off on your audit, if something is not right on this, that something has been miscategorized, that be noted. So, and then the $40,223 for product development with Spiffy Biffy Portable and Build It LLC. Can you give the council a little bit of background on that and why that one wasn't sent for limited solicitation?
So all of these under the procedure number 3 that are showing up were sole source. The 40,000 was for the Visitor Information Center remodel, and multiple bids were sent out to try and get anything. And these should have been put under sole source because these were the only 2 companies that I could actually get to come to West Yellowstone to do a remodel. So Spiffy Biffy handles the porta potties, and the Build It LLC handled the remodel. And this is just the CVB portion of close to $100,000 remodel that was then taken care of through multiple outside sources.
Okay. So a bidding process was attempted?
It was attempted, yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Katrina.
You're welcome.
That's all. And then on the next slide, just want to, on the budget slide, I just want to make sure that you were aware of the 11,152. So
this,
obviously
again,
you're
this
aware
was,
of it, but
yeah, this was like what Rebecca from Great Falls was explaining. These were committed funds that came through after the fact because of the late payments that happened after June 30th.
Okay.
So yeah, we actually carried forward 51,000. The 40,000 is what I projected, but after payments were taken into account after June 30th, we actually carried forward 51,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we ready to move to the next?
Yes, my apologies. Yes.
Okay. Anaconda CBB. For procedure number 1, the sample size was 15 expenditures with 1 exception noted. For this one selection, the approved travel form was not used when submitting the expenditure for reimbursement. Procedures 2 and 3, no exceptions were noted. For procedure 4, the cash to be committed as of fiscal year end was $6,680. Miles City CBB, the sample size for them was 19 expenditures with 1 exception. This again relates to the travel expense per diem, which was submitted for reimbursement. The combination of allowable per diem amounts just did not support the amount that was submitted. For procedure number 2 and 3, there were no exceptions noted. And for procedure 4, the cash to be committed at fiscal year end was $7,846.
I'd like to hold on. My apologies. I'd like to make just a comment for the TAC that we did talk to John about this, and that the $24 submission was just a bit of a mistake, and it has been noted, and it satisfied the committee. That's all.
Okay, great. Southeast Country, Montana, for their sample size, we looked at 89 expenditures and noted 2 exceptions. These were also related to not using the approved travel form when submitting the expenditure for reimbursement. Procedure number 2, there was no exception noted. Procedure number 3, no new bids or RFPs completed. For procedure number 4, the cash to be committed as of fiscal year end was $362,592.
Thank you.
No. Okay.
Any questions?
For Billings CVB, procedure number 1, their sample size was 21 expenditures. Procedure number 2, no exceptions were noted. Procedure number 3, no exceptions. And cash to be committed for them at fiscal year end was $70,911. And I believe, yep, that was the last presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Jill, and thank you, Paul, for your work on this. So before we move on to a motion, I do have some things that I would like to address. First of all, it is recognized that there has been inconsistencies in previous audits in applications of Section 8 bidding and request for proposal process within approved TAC regulations and procedures regarding the requirements of sole source process and associated documentation. To date, no DMO has been able to provide documentation stating that research services or data providers are exempt from this process. At the same time, it is clear that further training of the application of sole source process and associated documentation is needed and will be provided to DMOs during the remainder of FY26. We realize that more than 6 months into the current year, it is 6 months into the current year. If you are entering into any vendor contracts that you consider to be sole source, please contact the Department of Commerce if you have any questions and consult the posted regulations and procedures to ensure guidelines are followed. With this, all DMOs are expected to be in full compliance with Section 8 bidding and request for proposal process for sole source documentation. Immediate compliance is required for all other procedures related findings. It is the responsibility of all DMOs to know, understand, and be in compliance with the rules and regulations process as adopted in ARMS and posted. So I have quite the motion to read. The committee recommends final approval of the FY25 Great Falls CVB, Whitefish CVB, Miles City CVB, Columbia Falls CVB, Missoula CVB, Sydney CVB, Missouri River Country, Red Lodge CVB, Butte CVB, Central Montana, Livingston CVB, and Billings CVB audit as submitted with no findings. The committee recommends final approval of the FY25 Belgrade and West Yellowstone CVB audit reports as submitted, with TAC follow-up action in accordance with the regulations and procedures for region and CVB tourism organizations, use of lodging facility use tax revenue as adopted by ARMS. As stated in section 12, actions for non-compliance. A letter from the council chair will be issued to the organizations and their president chair. Noted in this letter will be findings related to guidelines section 8, bidding and request for proposal process. Where applicable, the letter will recognize the need for clarification around the use of designated sole source process for all vendors in qualifying circumstances and need to be in compliance with this section for FY 27. The letter will also note the instance of being over budget for the FY 25 according to Schedule A within the agreed upon procedure report for FY 25. Also want to note that the auditing firm will correct the line item on West Yellowstone's audit. The committee recommends final approval for Havre CVB audit as submitted. The TAC follow-up action in accordance with rules and procedures for Region CVB tourism use of lodging facility use tax revenue adopted by ARMS. As stated in section 12, action for non-compliance. A letter from the council chair will be issued to the organization and their president chair, noting the instance of being over budget for FY 25 according to Schedule A within the agreed upon procedures produced for FY 25. The committee recommends final approval of the FY 25 Dillon CVB, Helena CVB, Kalispell CVB, and Gardner CVB audit reports as submitted with TAC follow-up action in accordance to the regulations and procedures for Region CVB tourism organizations, use of lodging facility tax revenue as adopted by ARMS. As stated in section 12, actions for non-compliance, letter from the council chair will be issued to the organizations and the president chair. Noting this letter will be findings related to guidelines section 8, bidding and request for proposal process. Where applicable, the letter will recognize the need for clarification around the use of designated sole source process for all vendors, qualifying circumstances, and the need to be in compliance with this section for FY 27. The committee recommends final approval for the FY 25 Anaconda CVB and Southeast Montana audit report as submitted. The TAC will follow up actions in accordance with regulations and procedures for Regions CVB tourism use, Regions CVB tourism organizations, use of lodging facility tax revenue as adopted by ARMS. As stated in section 11, bookkeeping regulations, the executive director and the president chair of the organization will be sent a letter from the council informing them of the findings and informing them of the need to adhere to regulations regarding travel expense forms moving forward. Clarification on appropriate travel forms will, clarification on appropriate travel form use will be provided within the remainder of FY 26 for complete compliance by FY 27. May I have or does anyone have any questions or questions? Does the TAC have any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
This is Lisa Koski. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Lisa. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, same sign. Do we have any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. I would like to take this opportunity for to thank all the DMOs for your cooperation in the process. And before we adjourn, I just want to remind everyone of the June TAC 9th, 10th meeting in Helena. And anything further from the committee?
No.
Thank you. The February 18th Tourism Advisory Council meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.